People love pretending they know used luxury cars. They don't. That's why they keep wasting money on the same tired models while a handful of genuinely great luxury cars have been left behind, undervalued, overlooked, and almost erased from the conversation. The crazy part is, some of them are still everywhere. So why did the market turn its back on them? Here's where the whole forgotten gold idea starts making sense, because this one never disappeared for being bad. It disappeared for being too calm, too sensible, too grown-up. And that is exactly why the Lexus ES 350 has become one of the cleanest luxury buys hiding in plain sight. People look at it now and see an aging commuter. Smart buyers look closer and see a Lexus badge, a buttery ride, a genuinely quiet cabin, and ownership that usually does not turn into a monthly argument with your bank account. Under the hood, you are getting a 3.5-liter V6 with around 268 horsepower and a 6-speed automatic, which is more than enough for this kind of car. It is not trying to be a sports sedan, and honestly, that helps it. Around town and on the highway, it feels relaxed, smooth, expensive. Real-world fuel economy usually lands in the mid-20s combined, with highway driving often getting close to 30 miles per gallon if you are not driving like you are late to a court date. Now, the smart play here is usually 2014 through 2017. That is the sweet spot. A 2013 can be tempting because the price is lower, roughly around $13,350, but that year is the one you inspect harder. Water leaks, sunroof-related problems, damp carpets, musty smells, stained headliners, check all of it before you get emotionally attached. A 2015 at around $15,500 or a 2017 near $19,550 makes a stronger case if you want the low-drama version of this story. And before you shop for any used luxury car, do yourself a favor and keep a basic toolkit and a portable air compressor in the trunk. Not because this Lexus is fragile, but because smart ownership starts before something goes wrong. Dead battery, low tire, loose terminal, little stuff like that is what separates a confident buyer from the person stranded in a nice badge. This is for the buyer who wants comfort, reputation, and peace more than attention. Not exciting, not flashy, just quietly excellent. But what happens when that same forgotten value formula moves out of a sedan and into something families still grab every day? There's a certain kind of buyer who walks past an RX 350 because it feels too familiar. They see one in a grocery store parking lot, one at the school pickup line, one in the next neighborhood over, and they assume it cannot possibly be a smart find because it never looked rare. That is the trap. The Lexus RX got so common in America, people forgot it is still one of the safest ways to buy real luxury without stepping into modern luxury money. This thing was built for comfort first, and it never hides that. You get a 3.5-liter V6, about 270 horsepower, and a 6-speed automatic that just goes about its business without drama. No attitude, no fake aggression, no pretending to be something it is not. In the real world, that usually means around 20 miles per gallon combined, give or take, and roughly 24 to 25 on the highway, depending on how and where you drive. For a mid-size luxury SUV with this kind of reputation, that is still a fair trade. Price is where it starts looking quietly brilliant. A 2012 sits around $12,500, a 2014 around $14,750, and a 2015 around $16,550. That puts you in Lexus SUV territory for money that now overlaps with loaded mainstream crossovers people will trust less 5 years from now. Now, be honest about what it is. This is not the sharpest driver here. The steering can feel over-assisted, almost too light, which means if you want something playful, this will not be your answer. But if your priority is smoothness, resale, low-stress ownership, and a cabin that still feels properly premium, that weakness almost becomes part of the charm. Inspection-wise, do not get lazy just because it says Lexus. Listen for tired suspension over rough pavement, make sure the transmission shifts cleanly, check that every power feature works, and look for signs the previous owner treated maintenance like a suggestion instead of a rule. The good news is, when these are cared for, they tend to stay very easy to live with. This is for the buyer who wants luxury that works every day, not luxury that needs applause. But what if you want something smaller, sharper, and a little less obvious than a Lexus SUV everybody already knows? Quick favor, my friend. If this is helping you shop smarter, tap like and subscribe, and drop your city in the comments so we can keep these price breakdowns real for your market. Now, this is where the list gets smarter, because the Acura TSX is not trying to impress the wrong people. It is for the buyer who wants something premium, tight, reliable, and affordable enough that the monthly math still feels sane. That is what makes it dangerous in this market. It does not scream luxury, so people skip it. Then somebody else buys a genuinely well-made sedan for about the price of a used economy car with nicer wheels. A clean 2013 usually sits around $9,850, and a 2014 around $10,800. Read that again, because that is where the TSX starts to feel a little unfair. You are getting Acura build quality, a genuinely upscale cabin for the money, and ownership costs that tend to stay surprisingly civilized. This is the kind of car that makes a bad financial decision parked next to it look even worse. Most of these came with a 2.4-liter four-cylinder, making about 201 horsepower, paired to an automatic, and that setup fits the car perfectly. It is not fast in a dramatic way, but it is responsive enough, easy to live with, and usually returns real-world fuel economy in the high 20s combined if you drive like a normal person. That matters, because this car wins by being the one you can still enjoy after insurance, fuel, and maintenance show up. Here is the honest part. Not every TSX deserves the praise. The final years do. That is the move. 2013 and especially 2014 make the story work. The cheaper 2012 can lure people in, but that is exactly where buyers make the mistake. With these later cars, I would still check for rough shifts, neglected fluid service, uneven tire wear, tired front suspension, and cheap aftermarket junk. A well-kept TSX usually looks disciplined everywhere, right down to the tires. A neglected one gives itself away fast. This is the rational sleeper in the lineup. Compact, premium, dependable, and quietly better than a lot of people remember. But the next one goes in a totally different direction, because now we leave smart and tidy behind and step into something with a little more attitude. Here's where the video stops being polite, because the Infiniti Q40 is not the polished, soft-focus kind of luxury buy. It is the one enthusiasts quietly understand and everybody else forgot existed. Most people do not even realize this is basically the old G37 sedan wearing a different name, and that is exactly why it works. The market moved on. The car did not suddenly get bad. It just got ignored. Under the hood, you get a 3.7-liter V6 pushing 328 horsepower through a 7-speed automatic, and that changes the mood instantly. This thing has real rear-drive sport sedan character, quick acceleration, strong handling, and steering that actually tells you something. That is the upside. The trade-off is just as real. The ride is firmer, the cabin is noisier than the Lexus and Acura picks, and the interior no longer feels modern by luxury car standards. So no, this is not the refined one. It is the fun one. Fuel economy is not its love language either. Think high teens in the city and mid-20s on the highway, depending on whether you get rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. But at around $10,350 as a fair purchase number, with current resale around $9,025, that old school performance starts looking like a steal. Owners still rate it very strongly too, with a 4.8 out of 5 reliability score on cars.com and 94% saying they would recommend it. Now here is the buyer mistake to avoid, treating this like a cheap luxury commuter instead of a used performance sedan. Check for cheap mods, uneven tire wear, rough shifting, abused brakes, and any sign somebody loved speed more than maintenance. RepairPal does not publish a model-specific reliability score because there is not enough data, and average annual maintenance cost lands around $686, so this is still a car you buy with your eyes open. This one is for the driver who still wants some attitude in the deal. But what happens when forgotten luxury goes the other way completely and turns into a small American crossover almost nobody saw coming? Then there is the Lincoln MKC, and this one is not the safe answer. It is the wildcard. The one that still looks expensive in a driveway, still gives off that polished luxury crossover vibe, and now sells for numbers that barely sound like luxury money anymore. A base 2016 is around $8,775, a 2017 around $11,350, and a 2018 around $13,400. That is exactly why the MKC belongs here. It feels like the kind of vehicle people assume costs more than it actually does. Most buyers will end up looking at the 2.0 EcoBoost, which makes 240 horsepower and is usually rated around 23 miles per gallon combined. There was also a stronger 2.3 turbo with 285 horsepower, but that version drinks more fuel, so this is one of those moments where the cheaper engine may actually be the smarter engine on paper, and owners do not hate these things at all. Cars.com shows the 2017 with a 4.6 out of 5 reliability score and 92% recommending it, which tells you the appeal is real. Now, for the part that keeps this honest, you do not buy an MKC like you buy a Lexus RX. RepairPal rates it at 3.5 out of 5, with average annual repair costs around $853, so this is already a heavier ownership story. Then there is the stuff that actually matters. Ford's TSB 1923-46 covers certain 2017 to 2019 MKC models with the 2.0 EcoBoost for coolant intrusion serious enough to require long block replacement, and NHTSA's recall on 2015 to 2019 MKCs warns about a battery monitor sensor short that can raise fire risk. So this is the rule with an MKC. Check engine history, verify recall completion, and do not touch one without service records. Do that, and it can be a very attractive bargain. Skip that, and cheap luxury gets expensive fast. And that is the real lesson here. The used luxury market is not just about finding what looks expensive. It is about spotting what everybody else stopped respecting too soon. These cars did not become worthless. They became overlooked. And right now, that is where the smart money still lives. If you know how to inspect them, know which years to target, and stay honest about what each one is built to do, there is still real gold hiding in plain sight. Watch the next video, because there are more forgotten wins, the market is still getting wrong,